In 2024, Donald Trump secured a second term in the White House. By winning this election, he became only the second president in United States history to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. This victory followed a period of intense legal pressure and public controversy that many expected to be insurmountable. After the 2020 election, his career was defined by a relentless series of investigations and criminal trials. Most political analysts at the time concluded his public life had reached a dead end. The assumption was that no candidate could survive such a high volume of compounding institutional crises. Finding the answer to how he bypassed these obstacles requires looking past modern politics to the specific survival tactics he developed over 30 years ago. His initial rise began in Manhattan during the late 1970s and 80s. With the renovation of the Grand Hyatt and the construction of Trump Tower, he positioned himself as the dominant name in luxury real estate. He scaled this image rapidly, moving into the gaming industry with massive Atlantic City properties like the Trump Taj Mahal. However, the early 1990s brought severe financial instability. A downward trajectory forced his companies into Chapter 11 bankruptcy 4 times. Rather than liquidating, he negotiated directly with banks, pushing for debt restructuring to maintain operational control. He learned to manage a crisis by flatly refusing to accept a total defeat. By keeping his businesses alive through high-stakes negotiation, he discovered he could operate even when his balance sheet was in the red. This era established his first rule of survival. A total collapse is not the end of a career, but the opening sequence for a new negotiation. In 2004, he began a massive overhaul of his public image. The launch of the reality show The Apprentice allowed him to project a specific persona to a national audience. The television format allowed him to inhabit the role of an absolute authority figure. Millions of viewers were introduced to a version of Trump that was defined by wealth, decisiveness, and total control. During this same period, he shifted his business model away from the physical risks of construction. He began licensing his name to other developers, collecting fees for the Trump brand without having to own the actual buildings. By detaching his name from the volatility of real estate debt, he transformed his identity into an idea. He was no longer just a builder. He was a brand that could exist independently of his financial performance. During his 2015 announcement, the political establishment reacted with the same skepticism the banks had shown in the early 90s. They treated his candidacy as a temporary spectacle rather than a serious threat. He applied his television experience to dominate the media cycle, using conflict to remain the center of attention until he captured the presidency in 2016. The 2020 loss created a massive deficit in his political capital. To the institutional world, this was a political bankruptcy, deemed impossible to recover from. But he deployed the same tactics he used in the 90s. He refused to concede the narrative, retained control over his base of supporters, and aggressively rebuilt his brand equity for a second run. He proved that a political operation could sustain itself as a licensed brand, fueled by constant media visibility and unyielding momentum. His career has successfully defied the traditional penalties that typically end a political life. He established a brand new model for political survival, where controversy often increases visibility rather than diminishing it. He proved a modern campaign can maintain its power by functioning as a high-stakes media enterprise. This model prioritizes brand loyalty over the traditional structures of a political party. This durability relies on a refusal to accept the terms of a loss, combined with a personal brand that his supporters view as completely independent from the mainstream. The architecture of his return was not designed within the traditional rules of government. It was forged decades ago in the boardrooms of Manhattan, where he first learned how to turn a total collapse into a comeback.